Alright, so I got my dirty truck on the lift here. I had to pull the transmission. Having issues with the rebuilt one that I put in. I sent it back. So while it's on the lift, I took the bed off and the cap and everything. But I had this Super Duty fuel tank kicking around. One of these plastic ones. It was still attached to a truck, so I got all the straps and the hardware and the skid plate if I choose to use it. So I think those are 38 gallons by Ford's specs on there, and this is like 16, the original OBS tank. I thought I had an issue with the tank, but it appears just the line had a restriction in it. Well, you can see you can't see nothing in there. But this looks like it's all original brass float. The fuel gauge was still working. You can see the pickup is gone. The pickup had fell off. And maybe part of the pickup got sucked in through there and ended up in the line right before the selector valve. And here's I think I ordered a fuel sending unit from a 6-liter truck, which I'm pretty sure they're the same tank as the 6.4 trucks. The frame that I have is from a 6.4 truck, a extended cab long bed. So as long as it has the long bed, it has the big 38-gallon fuel tank apparently. Where's the old sender? So here's the sender that was in that 38-gallon tank from an 08 6.4 truck. Pretty sure they're the same size on the top. I was going to replace mine anyways because the pickup was broken off. The 6.4 trucks have this big fuel line. So yeah, that's the supply line. Is a lot bigger than it is on the 7.3 and the 6-liter trucks. So on this is a 5/16 and a 3/8, and this is a 3/8 return and a, I'm not sure, maybe it's 10 millimeter or something like that. This is probably not the most scientific way. Guess that's half-inch. Half-inch reach just barely fits on there. So, to make it work on the OBS truck without modifying the fuel lines, I do want to keep my fuel selector because I already have a Bronco tank in the back. It's an aftermarket tank. Pretty much same dimensions, it's just deeper. You can see the extensions on the tank straps. So I'll carry 70 gallons of fuel. I got this the one tank strap on the front. I have the opposite side already kind of hooked up. I actually used one of the factory bolts that was on this truck in a different hole. Looks like it's kind of crooked right there. You'll probably, if I lower it down, it'll shift over and be straight. And the rear strap, let me get a light. The rear strap kind of ends up in the center of this cross member. So for now I just have a piece of metal. It's already got a hole in the center, just clamped up there. Pretty sure I'll just weld that on there. And the biggest issue I see is where the strap ends up on this side. Almost centered directly behind this, the front spring perch. So inside of the frame rail, the cross member comes all the way out to here, and there's not much room. So I think I'm just going to drill a hole and use threaded rod so I can spin the nut on the top. And a nut on the bottom and cinch them together. The front, probably going to be just as much work. It's where it ends up on the frame is, the frame is slanted at this point, and it's pretty low. So probably make a bracket to fit on there. Okay, so for this front strap, I have some 7/16 threaded rod, so that's what I decided to use. It fits right through the hole in the strap. So I took the 7/16 nut and I drilled a hole so it's like an interference fit in there. It's pretty good. I'll just put a couple tacks on there. So I have my nut. Tried to make a nice weld, but not a welder. Oh well. So that should be sufficient to keep it from spinning inside of the frame rail. I did make an executive decision. Look under here. So there was 2 holes there already. One here, one closer to the back of the truck. This is the leaf spring hanger right under there. And I just enlarged that hole to, I don't know, like a 16th, not even a 16th. I'm using 7/16 rod, so it might be a 32nd bigger than 7/16. In this, the nut with the flat bar attached to it should fit right in there. Alright, this is behind the spring hanger there. What I ended up with was that nut that I welded up, a small spacer, the spacer is maybe 1 inch, I'm not sure, but I just made it out of a piece of steel pipe. And I used threaded rod there because of the cross member. It would be really hard to stick a bolt through. And here's the front mount. Here's the front mount. Sorry about the lighting. And it's just a piece of 3-inch angle. Not too thick. I think it's 1/8 or 3/16, and a 7/16 grade 8 bolt. I'm sure 3/8 would be plenty. The other side, the inside, is, it's not the factory hole, but that's the factory bolt from this truck. And same thing here. It kind of ended up right in the middle of this cross member, so I took a piece of steel. I think it was actually an old lawnmower blade, grass blade. It already had a hole in it, so I just cut it to fit and welded it. Not the prettiest, but I think it's going to hold just fine. And then there's the skid plate. I'm not sure how necessary it is, but I think I'm going to try to make it fit up there. There we are, skid plate. It's on the transmission jack. Can we see in there? Kind of. So that is the exhaust hanger bracket. I had to cut the edge there, and I trimmed just the corner off of the actual bracket on the skid plate, and I sliced there, there, so it would be flat for the bracket to go on there. Front one wasn't as hard, just drilled a hole, pretty much like the gas tank strap, diesel tank strap. I put 3/8 bolts in there, that's what I had. Now this side is a little more difficult. Doesn't quite line up with the frame. That's this little bracket on the frame is is to hold the emergency brake cables. Then fighting this cross member again, but I think I'm just gonna pull this out to line it up with the frame. Pull this out this way to line up with the frame, and just drill one hole in this one here. That should be in the center of this cross member, enough where I can get one bolt in there. And the back, one, you can do a similar thing. Alright, so here's the dirty shop floor. I got the tank pretty much attached. See if we can see anything here. There's the skid plate. Those are just the... There you go. It's not a bad shot. So this is the skid plate mount spacer. What I did is I just drilled and tapped a hole. 5/16 hardware. Did the same thing here in the front. A couple washers under there because there's a rivet. Seems to fit pretty good. Then the next thing, I'm gonna have to pull it, get the truck down a little bit lower, and I can see where the filler deck's gonna end up. So, try this light. The axle is pretty low right now because it's up in the air. I'll put the drive shaft in just to see the clearance, which I can fit my hand in there, which I hope so. I'm guessing that's enough. It's not quite tight to the frame here because of where the cross members are. I guess if you were to put it lower, you could get it closer to the frame over here. But I think there's plenty of clearance for the drive shaft. Should be fine. Still no transmission, waiting on that. Alright, you can see I welded the filler neck in the middle here because I couldn't get the angle clocked right. So I just cut it and tacked it back together, and then with the length of the filler, I had to cut it up pretty close to the top here, pretty close to the vent, because of the radius of this bend. So I don't know if it would be possible to do this with the factory 6.4 filler neck without, you know, cutting it way up here and welding it. It'd be hard to get a rubber, you know, diesel appropriate rubber hose with a bend in it to get, you know, it's about 30 inches, I think, offset you had to end up with here. And this was easy. It's just 3/4 inch hose, and I wasn't really concerned with it being diesel rated. I just used something I had laying around because it should just be air in there in the vent. The cap is different also. My truck's a 95, so this cap is from my truck. It does fit in there, it's just not a tight seal. You can see it's kind of, the threads are just different, which it's probably not a big deal on an old truck like this. It's not a sealed system, it's just open vented, so I'll probably get an appropriate cap, but just not right now.